This is attorney David Rodriguez with immigrationconsultation.lawyer, and today we're checking out another important website for U.S. immigration. This site is the Visa Bulletin, found on travel.state.gov. You can see here that the current bulletin is June 2026, and this is updated every month, going back many, many years. As you can see as I scroll down here, all these Visa Bulletins go back all the way to the 90s. And this site is very important for both family-based and employment visas. So for family-based, and I'm going to click on here and get to the current bulletin so I can explain what's going on. So for family-based, there's something called an immediate relative. An immediate relative is a parent, spouse, or child of a U.S. citizen. And for those categories, for an immediate relative, there's always a visa available. But they've created these other family preference categories that are capped with the amount of visas they can issue every single year. Now, more people file than there are visas available, so then it gets backed up and backed up and backed up. So let's take a look at some of these family preference categories. The first is an unmarried son or daughter of a U.S. citizen. Now, if your child is over 21, they're not considered a child anymore. They're considered a son or a daughter. The second category is split into two. There's the F2A, which is a spouse or child of a permanent resident, or an unmarried son or daughter of a permanent resident. The third category is married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens, and the fourth are brothers and sisters of adult citizens. So if you look at this first chart, we have the final action dates for family-sponsored preferences. So when you file for a family member and they fall in one of these categories, you're submitting an I-130 to USCIS. Now, once you submit that I-130 and you get that receipt notice, there is something called a priority date on the receipt notice. That priority date is very important because if you're submitting for one of these family members, they're most likely backed up for a few years. And you have to wait until you're eligible to then complete the process of consular processing at the embassy or complete the process of adjustment of status on a standard adjustment of status in the US. So if you look at these unmarried sons and daughters of US citizens, all of these countries except China, India, Mexico, and the Philippines are backed up to September of 2017, which means you would have need to have filed your I-130 in September of 2017 or earlier in order to bring your unmarried son or daughter to the U.S. or adjust their status if you're a U.S. citizen. The F2A category isn't backed up that far. It's January 2025, so about a year and a half. But if you check out if it's from Mexico, it's backed up a little bit further. The F2B, the unmarried sons and daughters of permanent residents, is backed up similar to unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens, to September 2017, February 2012, November of 2008. So brothers and sisters are going to have to wait a long time to come to the U.S. So those are the final action dates. That's when the case can be completed. But let's look at this other chart, which is the dates of filing for family-sponsored visa applications. You could see that these dates are a little bit earlier. So this allows you to file with the National Visa Center or submit an I-485 prior to the final action date in most cases, to get a head start on submitting the paperwork. If the family member is in the U.S., you could even potentially file an employment authorization and get them working or get some sort of ID while they're waiting for the final action date to arrive. If you look at the F2A category, that's current. That C means current. So for a spouse or child of a permanent resident, once you get approved on the I-130, you can complete the processing with the National Visa Center and then get the interview at the embassy. Or you can file an I-130 and an I-485 concurrently under standard adjustment of status rules. If your family member is in non-immigrant status once you file the I-485. F2B, backed up, backed up, backed up for the brothers and sisters. And then also, if you're in China, India, Mexico, or Philippines, it's often a little bit different date. So you have to keep that in mind when you're checking out your priority dates and the dates of filing and the final action date. So you don't want to wait till the final action date to submit the paperwork. You want to look at this second chart, the dates of filing, to then get everything submitted so then it can be processed as soon as the final action date becomes current. Now, once the final action date becomes current, that doesn't mean they're going to get an interview the next day. That just means they're going to actually start the process of completing the application and scheduling the interview, whether it's at USCIS or at the embassy overseas. Now, the same can be said for employment based preference cases. There's this first final action date, and these C's here means current, but you could see in C and C, India is backed up to 2022 for the EB1, China, April 2023. Also, a little bit further backed up for the EB2, the EB3, and the other EB employment-based visas down the line. Now you can see that current backed up, definitely backed up for India, and then you scroll down, it's the same dates for filing for employment-based visa applications. Usually these dates are ahead, closer in time than the final action date, but sometimes it's not the case. So if the final action date comes before the date of filing, then you can file and complete the process. Now, and then there's a section about diversity immigrant visas. We're not going to look at that. But another issue with employment based visas is retrogression. Retrogression, normally every month, it should move forward, or at least stay the same, and inch its way towards the priority date to then complete the process. But with retrogression, sometimes it moves back. So you're moving forward, and then it goes back like one step forward, two steps back. It just happens for whatever reason, whether it's increased filing or a backlog with the government, or it could be any number of reasons. It's beyond my control to understand why. But retrogression is real. It certainly happens. So not only does it move forward, it sometimes stays the same for multiple months, and sometimes it moves backwards. But this Visa Bulletin is a super important site to check out when you're filing for your family member, so you can have an estimated time of how long it's going to take, or for employment base, you have an estimated time of how long it's going to take to finally get that visa, finally get that green card. Just because you started the process in filing, if you're in a family based category that's backed up for a long time, oh, I'm bringing my brother. Yeah, but not really, because you're going to have to wait almost 20 years to bring your sibling to the US. Another issue that happens is, let's say you file for your child, but during the process, your child becomes a son or daughter. Maybe you file when they're 19 or something, and you want them to finish school, and it takes a little bit more time. Sometimes they could turn into an adult and move further back. You're expecting, oh, okay, it's only a couple months, I'm ready to complete the process, but then your child turns 21, and that's where CSPA comes in. So, for example, if you are filing for your child as a permanent resident, right, and then during the process you become a citizen, and then your child turns 21, then your child is no longer considered a child of a permanent resident, but a son or daughter of a U.S. citizen. So this January 25th, now January 2025, turns into September 2017. So you just lost 8 years approximately to bring that child, now an adult, to the US. So another video to check out is the CSPA video, so you can understand the dates and the formula for maintaining child status for your child who may turn 21 or over during the process. But these are important things to check out when you're trying to bring your family member, or trying to become a permanent resident through employment. So definitely take a look at the Visa Bulletin, get an idea or an estimate of how long the case is going to take to bring your loved one or get a green card for your employee. Um, so definitely Visa Bulletin, keep checking it. It's an important website for U.S. immigration. Thank you and have a great day.